Greetings, everyone. Thank you, Vanessa Two Bears. Allison Two Bears for hosting this event today. I have some few things that I need to read into record just from a legal standpoint so that I know that it's being recorded and heard by the parties involved. My name is Greg Gallup. I'm the Executive Director of Agua International Water Relief, and we came here in support of the Sioux Tribe. I've met with tribal leadership. We basically submitted a letter to the President as well as the Chief of Civil Works, Ms. Jo Ellen Darcy from the Army Corps of Engineers. And I'll submit this to you. That's our letter of support. It basically concurs with everything that the tribal leadership has said. In addition to that, I want to state that I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I was trained at the United States Military Academy at West Point. As you know, they train engineers, and those engineers then go into work in the Army Corps of Engineers. So we've contacted our points within the Army Corps of Engineers, and I've expressed to them that what I have seen here, and I concur with the people here, is actually happening. So they are aware, and they have a responsibility to judge rightly in the matters because of flying that information to them. I'm also the Executive Director of Agua International Water Relief. We're an INGO, a non-governmental organization addressing human rights issues in 9 countries around the world, and now 10. This is here in America. And the water-related human rights issues and climate-related disorders. Many of the countries that I travel into are experiencing climate change-related issues, and so we have to now help them get clean water because of climate change. So I've been here in Standing Rock for over 10 days. I've met with the tribal leadership. I concur with everything that they're saying. That is happening. The DAPL and Energy Transfer Partners have disregarded the President of the United States' recommendation to cease work on the pipeline until the Army Corps has examined the issue. Clergy of all races and denominations are being arrested. Women have been strip searched by male officers, numbered and put into dog cages. Local indigenous tribes are not being allowed to prey on their sacred lands that are currently being bulldozed to gain access to the river. Journalists, including myself, and medics are being targeted first by militarized police officers, and they are being maced, pepper sprayed, and shot at with less than lethal weapons. I had an opportunity to speak with the journalist who was shot the other day, and I concur. I was there when it happened. It happened. I too was almost arrested as I tried to document the clergy that was being arrested in front of the governor's mansion in Mandan. So I can testify to the fact that they are arresting clergy members who are praying peacefully to ask for resolution in this matter. My message here today is in conjunction with also the Sioux Tribe leadership. What they are asking for is that a total EIS, a total environmental impact survey, and an SIA, a social impact assessment, be carried out by all the parties concerned so that they have a rightful time and place to be expressed. I also want to list a few of the federal violations that DAPL has committed to date and read this into record. Fort Laramie Treaty of April 29, 1868, the Dakota Access Pipeline violates Article 2 of the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty, which guarantees that the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe shall enjoy the undisturbed use and occupation of our permanent homeland, the Standing Rock Indian Reservation. The U.S. Constitution states that treaties are the supreme law of the land. Executive Order 12898 on environmental justice. All agencies must determine if proposed project disproportionately impacts tribal community or other minority community. The DAPL was originally routed to cross the Missouri River north of Bismarck. The crossing was moved to avoid populated areas. So instead of crossing the river of the state's capital, it crosses the aquifer of the Great Sioux Reservation. Pipeline Safety Act and Clean Water Act. DAPL has not publicly identified the Missouri River crossing as high consequence. The Oglala Aquifer must be considered a high consequence area since the pipeline would cross critical drinking water and intakes for those water systems. The emergency plan must estimate the maximum possible spill in accordance with 49 CFR 195.452H, subsection 4, subsection I. DAPL refuses to release this information to the tribe. National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA. A detailed environmental impact statement, EIS, must be completed for major actions that affect the environment. Also, the Army Corps of Engineers must comply with NEPA for the permit for the Missouri River crossing. The way agencies get around this is to provide a lesser study, a brief environmental assessment, which Dakota Access has done, A full EIS would be an interdisciplinary approach for the integrated use of natural and social sciences to determine direct and indirect effects of the project and possible conflicts with Indian land use plans and policies and cultural resources. 40 CFR 1502.16. Executive Order 13007 on protection of sacred sites. In managing federal lands, each executive branch agency shall avoid adversely affecting the physical integrity of such sites. There are historical ceremony sites and burial grounds in the immediate vicinity of the Missouri River crossing. The Corps must deny the DAPL permit to protect these sites in compliance with EO 13007. 42 U.S. Code 1986, action for neglect to prevent. Upon reading this now, anyone who hears the message that I've just read to you is now complied to. You're basically being served with neglect to prevent. If you are in a position where you can rule justly in favor of this incident, upon hearing this, you are now legally committed and being responsible for doing something with regards to it. Every person who, having knowledge that any of their wrongings conspired to be done and mentioned in section 1985 of this title are about to be committed, and having power to prevent or aid in preventing the commission of the same, neglects or refuses to do so, if such wrongful act has been committed, such be liable to the party injured or his legal representatives for all damages caused by such wrongful act, which such person by reasonable diligence could have been prevented, and such damages may be recovered in an action on the case, and any number of persons guilty of such wrongful neglect or refusal may be joined as defendants in the action. And if the death of any party be caused by any such wrongful act and neglect, the legal representatives of the deceased shall have action therefore, and may recover not exceeding $5,000 damages therein for the benefit of the widow of the deceased. If there be one, and if there be no widow, then for the benefit of the next of kin of the deceased. But no action under the provisions of this section shall be sustained which is not commenced within 1 year after the cause of action has accrued. Resolution 1981. Now quoting from the Army Corps of Engineers, one of their officer oaths, and my appeal is to the officer corps to do what it is that they oath to do as officers. Strengthen and increase our admiration for honest dealing and clean thinking, and suffer not our hatred of hypocrisy and pretense ever to diminish. Encourage us in our endeavor to live above the common level of life. Make us to choose the harder right instead of the easier wrong, and never to be content with a half-truth when the whole truth can be won. Endow us with courage that is born of loyalty to all that is noble and worthy, that scorns to compromise with vice and injustice, and knows no fear when truth and right are in jeopardy. Guard us against flippancy and irreverence. Guard us against flippancy and irreverence in the sacred things of life. Grant us new ties of friendship and new opportunities of service. Kindle our hearts in fellowship with those of cheerful countenance, and soften our hearts with sympathy for those who sorrow and suffer. Help us maintain the honor of untarnished and unsullied, and to show forth in our lives the ideals of the U.S. Army in doing our duty to Thee and to our country. All of which we ask in the name of the great friend and creator. And this I adapted from the Army Code of Officer, the Code of the Army Officer, adapted by the Army Signal Corps page. And in conclusion, to the best of my knowledge, this pipeline poses a national security threat because of the size of the Missouri River. It puts all Americans at risk due to the increased, just to name one, the increased level of seismic activity because of fracking. There has been a lot more earthquakes in the continental United States because of that. If this pipeline was to be subject to some kind of earthquake or some other natural disaster, it would be a national security issue, and every life lost as a result of it here today will be held accountable to those who make a decision on the matter. I also testify that this is a global water security issue based upon the manner in which law has been overlooked in due process for the purpose of carrying out this pipeline. It sets a precedence for which corporations can overlook law to carry out their agendas, in which case they're putting the entire human population at risk by continuing to set this precedence, not only for the Sioux tribe, but also for the American people and the people who inhabit our earth. Thank you.
would like to give testimony?